So building off my last video where we set up a tall stack Laravel application, I want to build a simple component that allows us to create and update a model. So we're going to do this completely using TDD and just see where it takes off. We really don't have any plans for this. So we're just going to go ahead and start. So I'm using the Laravel Idea plugin, as I mentioned before, and I'm going to create a feature test. So we're going to start with the test here, and we'll just create a company. So create company test, and we'll refresh database because I'm sure that's what we're going to do. So add that. In this case, it can create a company. Okay, so what do we need to do? So we need to create a Livewire component. So let's go ahead and create a variable called component. There's going to be Livewire test in the name of the component. This component doesn't exist yet, but we'll drive that out. So we'll do company component. And then we'll set the name of the company to Acme, and then we'll set the state to Texas, something simple like that. And then on the component, we're going to call a create method, and this should assert the database has in the company's table, we should have a company with the name of Acme and the state of Texas. So that's what we're just going to assert, that this exists in the company's table. So we're going to run the test, and unable to find component. So again, none of this exists. So a company doesn't exist. This Livewire component doesn't exist yet. We're going to drive all that out with TDD. So the first error we get is, actually, we pull this up here, and I don't think I can make this any bigger, but unable to find a component, company component. So we're going to use the Laravel Idea to create a Livewire component. We'll call this the company component. All right, we're going to add that. Let's get back to the test and import that. We're going to run it again. Now the property name does not exist, so we'll come here and we'll create a property called name. Run the test again. Now state doesn't exist, so we'll add state here. Run that, and then unable to find the method create. So we need to create the method. Run that again, and no such table companies. So we need to go ahead and create a model. So let's go ahead and create a model here, and we'll call it company. We don't need a controller. We don't need a seeder. We'll create a migration, and actually we'll create a seeder and a migration. So run that. So Laravel Idea just created a seeder and a migration. So you can see here's a migration here. So if I hit that again, now it's expecting that the row exists in the table. So let's go to our component and go ahead and go to company, create, and we were going to create, the name will be this name, and the state will be this state. So run that. And then we got to add name to fillable property on the company model. So if I go to the company model and I just add guarded to an empty array, that means all the fields can be filled. So run that. Now we're running into issues about the columns on the company table. So we can go back to the create companies table, and we can add our columns. So we're going to create a string for the name, run the test again, and now we don't have a state. So another string, this is going to be state, and now we're green. So just like that, we create a component using TDD that allows us to create a company. There's no UI for this just yet, but if we do create, as long as we use a component and we pass the name and the state and we hit that create method, we are able to create a company. So let's go ahead and let's go ahead and log in here. I think it's john@example.com. And here is I think this is another component or something. So what I'm going to do is go to the dashboard and we're just going to create that component right here. So Livewire company component right here in the dashboard. So go back to Chrome, refresh, and there's nothing here. So I'm going to use Tailwind UI for this. So inside of my component blade file, so in the company/component.blade, I'm going to paste in this this is from Tailwind UI. I'm going to get rid of most of this. So we'll keep that first name. That's it. Take a look at that. And you can see all we have is the cancel save and the username, but we'll update this here. So we want a company and we don't need this description. We'll use name here and we'll just use the input. See what we're looking like. All right, cool. Name. And then finally, we want to clear that up. And now we want to add the state. Go back to Chrome. So now we have a state and name. Let's fix up this roundness here. So, and let's go ahead and instead of rounded right, we'll just do rounded. We'll do rounded MD. So go back to Chrome. So now these fields look better. Okay, so now we got to wire up Livewire. So inside of the first input, we are going to do wire model, and we'll call this one name. Copy this out. Paste. State. Go back to Chrome. Now let's go ahead and create a company. So I'm gonna open up Table Plus. So in Table Plus here, here in Table Plus, we haven't ran our migration to create the companies table. So we're just going to see what happens. If you click save, nothing happens because we need to wire up that save button. So the save button, there's multiple ways you could do this. You could fire the event directly on the button, but what we are going to do is fire it on the form. So wire submit, we want to fire create. So wire submit.prevent. So wire submit.prevent, and we're going to just call the create method. So go back to Chrome, refresh, and you can see now we're trying to create a company, but that table doesn't exist. So now we can run our migration. Now we ran that migration for the company table. Go back to Chrome, refresh, new company, and state is Texas. So now if we look into Table Plus, we do a refresh, company's there, and we did create a name and a state for the company. All right, but if you notice, there's no validation. There's nothing going on. So I just click 20 times or 6 times, and we created 6 companies. So that's not good. Let's add some validation. So we have no validation. So if we go ahead and clear this out and try to save, you see we get these validations from the database, and we want to run some validation on the component itself. So name is required. And let's go ahead and copy and paste this code up here for now. And we're going to say name is blank. And we want to assert that the component assert errors. Assert has errors and the name field or name property. So if you see this component has no errors. So run the test and we can see that there's no errors on the component. So if we go back to the company component, we could add a rules property. So we'll do public rules and we'll add our validation rules here. So name is going to be required. Now, if we run the test again, nothing's going to happen. There's no failure because in the create method, we need to run this validate. So this is going to validate the rules that we specify in our rules property. So run that again. Now we get green. So let's create another test to verify that the state is required. So we'll specify a name and we'll empty out the state. And this should be state. So the component has no errors. Let's go back to the component and add that rule. Run the test again. And now we are green. So now if we go back to Chrome, refresh, now we don't get any errors, but it's not processing that save request. So let's come down here to the component and let's just see how this looks right here. So we're going to run we're going to create a paragraph tag with text red 500. We're just going to see what it looks like before we do it. So that's fine. Nothing too fancy, but that'll get the job done. So we want to do at error and we want to use the name error and we can pass in the message variable. So that is all you need to display the errors. So down here, I'm going to do the same thing for state. And let's go back to Chrome, run that again and save. So now if we save, we get the name field is required and the state field is required. You could add some more. You could, make this as nice as you like and add a border, a red border around if you'd like. But right now, when we save, validation is working. So go back to table plus, refresh. There's only 6. Those are the 6 that we've added before. So I'll delete these for now. Click save a few times. We get these errors. So everything's working as expected. Another thing that we might want to do is on save, redirect somewhere. But I'm actually going to take this component and reuse it for editing. And in order to do that, we'll have to do some refactoring. And that's going to be in the next video.